We've seen the debate really rage in the last couple of days. So at what point do we need to learn to live with the virus?
Well, Laura, at the very least, we need a vaccinated population, and that's really got to be our focus for the moment. And I think the good thing about having a conversation about opening up just makes the reality that COVID is coming to Australia very clear to Australians, and I think it will help people realise that the thing that they've got to get done themselves, the individual decision they can make, is to go and get vaccinated.
Once we do get vaccinated, what should it allow us to do?
Well, the PM has floated one thing, which is domestic travel without restrictions, and I think that would be a really clear benefit to many Australians who find that the current situation a bit baffling anyway. But if you have the additional safety net of being vaccinated, then the chances of moving COVID across our state borders would be really, really tiny. But I think we need to then move beyond that. What are the parameters we need to get in place in order to start opening up our international borders, maybe in a restricted way initially and then more broadly. And that should be pretty easy to describe, and we'd be really keen for government and community leaders to be having that conversation right now.
What are those parameters that you speak of?
Well, for a start, it's a certain level of vaccination, and we're going to have to take a bit of a punt here, like the government took a punt on the vaccine choices it made right at the start of the pandemic. They're going to have to make a call as to what they expect to be, on the balance of probabilities, the number of Australians needed to be vaccinated in order to largely protect our population. In particular, the focus has to be on those vulnerable Australians who we know have a much higher chance of ending up in hospital. If our vaccination rate amongst young, healthy people is lower, we may be able to live with that. And obviously, we're not going to vaccinate our children yet, and we need to be understanding of what that means. The other key point that the AMA, I think, needs to be really clearly discussed and decided is what we have to do to help our hospitals deal with the reality of a small amount of COVID in the community. And with hospitals at the moment that are so full, that have ambulances parked out the front waiting to drop people off already, how do we get our system ready to cope with both the flu and with COVID coming in to their EDs once the borders open up?
So what is required for our hospitals, and how would you define a small amount of COVID?
Well, we are likely to open up our borders with a level of quarantine, with a level of restrictions, but it means that they will become more porous and cases will get into the community. Once you've got cases in the community, they will circulate through the community depending on how many unvaccinated people there are. And we've got smart people around who can model what that looks like. And then we need to ensure that we've got the capacity at the front doors and the ICUs and the respiratory wards of our hospitals to deal with that expected surge in cases. And we know what this looks like because we get the flu every year. We get thousands of Australians getting extremely sick every year, and we know how to design the surge capacity that we need right now. The problem is that we don't have any surge capacity right now, and that might actually be the harder thing to get sorted by the end of the year or the middle of next year than actually getting our population vaccinated.
Doctor, what does life look like with COVID in a year or so from now? Does it become something like the flu? If we're all vaccinated, we can't avoid it, but we can stop the worst of it.
I think that's the expectation, and it does depend on our experience with the variants and how good the vaccines are at preventing transmission. But most of the data is actually looking pretty good that these vaccines are protecting people despite the variants around the world, and they are reducing transmission as well. So as that data comes in, we'll be more clear as to exactly what it looks like. But it does mean a level of respiratory disease, and in this case, a far more severe respiratory disease than the flu, but a level of that disease in the community normal, as a normal course of events, possibly summer and winter, and possibly for decades to come.
Doctor, we've got a high level of vaccine hesitancy at the moment. Would more freedom, more incentive fix that?
I think that's going to be a factor for people who are sitting on the fence or who are thinking, well, maybe I can wait, or maybe I'll wait until I can see a real reason for me to go and get vaccinated. Now, we would like for everyone to make the right call just because it's the right thing for Australia, it's the right thing for the community and to protect others. But I think if there's a direct benefit to you as an individual as well, that'll help give some Australians the nudge they need to go out and get vaccinated. And I think the carrot of free domestic travel without the chance of the border being slapped down while you're out of your home state, or potentially a little bit further down the track, the carrot of actually being able to travel internationally would be a significant factor to help drive our vaccination program.
Being able to travel freely within your own country seems like a pretty small mercy.
It does, and isn't it amazing that we're thinking that that's not the normal course of events? But having just had my first trip to Canberra recently, and being very worried about potentially getting caught up when we had a little outbreak in Melbourne, and the potential the WA could react with border closures, it's still a huge factor, despite the fact we're doing so well at controlling the disease in this country.
Omar, celebrating with a trip to Canberra, you could have gone to sunny Queensland or something like that. No, before I let you go. You know, we sit here a year on, Australians have been so compliant, they've proven they've done the right thing. What does life look like for them by the end of the year if the vaccine rollout is completed as the government says?
Well, I think we can see that our domestic border closures will be a thing of the past. With a fully vaccinated population, there'll be absolutely no justification for those. And I think our premiers are already starting to move on that. They're getting more confident. So I think we can say travel within Australia will be relatively normal. You can book your holidays over Christmas with the expectation that you can actually go and not be worried about losing your money or ruining your holiday. I think we'll be well into a conversation about international travel. We may have some further travel bubbles with low-risk jurisdictions, but it is hard to see unrestricted travel by the end of the year. But at least I hope we have a plan by then, and people can start looking forward and start actually potentially even booking flights for later in the year.
Omar Khorshid, always appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Cheers, Laura. Bye-bye.